All right, this is the Coast to Coast Combat Hour brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Make sure you check out AllAccessMMA.com for your mixed martial arts news. Ed Carbajal is here with Matt Hawkins, and returning to the podcast is the Queen. I had all these lines set up for her. Lionheart, Jillian DeCoursey, Queen of the Atoms, newly minted black belt, newly crowned Invicta FC Atomweight Champion. I mean, there's so much going on in your life, Jill. Thank you so much for coming back on and giving us your presence.
Thank you for having me back on.
Absolutely. Congratulations just right off the bat. We haven't had a chance to, I know you and Ed have had a little communication on Twitter, but if I don't know if you got a chance to catch the last two fights you had, we did a live stream during your fights, and
I gotta go back and check on them.
Oh, it was some of the most exciting moments we've had. I mean, we had our own little Joe Rogan flying back in the chair, and
yeah.
That's on my agenda then.
I'll clip it for you and send it to you. Actually, that way you don't have to watch the whole thing. But so right off the bat, I mean, the whole reason you're doing this for me, which again, thank you so much, because I invited you on because I watched your title win at least 4 times. The way that you got to the way that the fight went, I mean, there's the feeling out period in the beginning of the round, and then oddly enough, she started the grappling exchange, went in for the takedown. So I don't know if you read the piece that I wrote at that night when you won about kind of like how you was I correct with the technique, doing the 100% off of the forearm gable grip, and but the thing that you did that I thought was so cool, and what I wanted to ask you is that's got to be a move you hit in the gym like often, because the way, just the timing and fluidity of it, especially when you use your leg to kick her over to get the like sweep over your shoulder, that was something that I was just like, she's got to do that all the time.
So I mean, well, for the fight, what I was actually going for is I go for like the Kimura sweep from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in my corner and I was going for it, and like that's like one of my coach's like biggest pet peeves, because I'll sit to go for the reversal. So he was in the corner flipping out because I was going for the Kimura. So I didn't even realize it at the time, but afterwards they were like, "Yeah, you were having like a whole conversation with us." I was like telling him like, "No, don't worry, I'm good. Like we got this. Like we're good." So, but because he was flipping out so much about the Kimura, I was like, "All right, I won't go for the Kimura." So instead, I went for something that had a little bit less control with the 100. But yeah, I do it. I go for that like a lot, but more for like my reversals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that like, but it's like, those little like sneaky sweeps are my, my takedowns.
Yeah, I mean, because it like I think I was saying it to Matt when we watched it. Like when I do the similar move, it's usually off of them trying to pin my legs, and I use it to spin them around just to take their back.
Right.
But again, like I said, I watched it a few times. When I saw you kind of like kick her over with your knee or your thigh, and then you wound up on in such a dominant position to get to where you eventually got to for the submission, it was just a thing of beauty. I mean, it's a first round finish, submission. The other thing that happened since that, I mean, I know you went to Vegas and celebrated, and you deserve it all because all the hard work, you get to this point. But this week I saw you shared that you got your black belt.
Yeah, and Monday.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So the other thing that I wanted to ask you was, I mean, I got mine in 2017, and I remember when I got it, my instructor's a little bit he's a little bit callous with his promotions. It's like you never know they're coming. And when you get it, it was almost like I had like imposter syndrome. I was like, holy shit! Like I don't, in my mind I was like, wow, I don't know that much to be getting this, but now I know I have a lot more work to do. You kind of have double that with your title and getting the black belt.
Yep.
So like, does it just feel? Is there more like when you look ahead or you think about the future? Is there more kind of, I don't want to say stress, but you're like the work's just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like had like we do the same thing. Like it's not like you don't know you're getting promoted.
Mm-hmm.
And like my jiu-jitsu coach, my main like MMA coach, he's like, he does not like if you get promoted by him, like like you deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like I knew like after the fight, like winning the title, that I was like, all right, there's a big, I'm probably getting my, my black belt soon. So I kind of knew it was coming. But as far as like pressure and stuff like that, I don't really I try not to view it like that. Cause if you get yourself sucked into it, where like, oh, now I got my black belt. Oh, I'm the champ. It's just going to only hinder your performance. So it's kind of like just being more excited about it, where it's like, all right, well, people will be, maybe more afraid to grapple with me than they were before, but I don't think that's really going to change. But now it's like people don't want to strike with me either. So it's like, all right, well, I mean, what are you going to do?
You mentioned the striking, and I'm like a 1998 blue belt in a room full of 2022 black belts. And so I'm not going to get too much into technical, but when we were watching the fight, the one thing that I noticed I guess Ed would say just bleed, when you got her down, the first punch you threw was like a laser punch. Like it was like, it wasn't a little pitter pat hammer fist. And I even commented on it. I said, well, that's like it was a quick laser right hand. And immediately she basically gave her back.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It's not really a question, more of a compliment of like, that's just, it seems to me like that's something that we miss a little bit in some other fighters where they get the chance and it's like, you were like, I'm either going to knock her out or she's going to give me her back. It seems like what was kind of the process, I guess, not really a question, but I guess just a compliment on your technique as far as
thank
what
you.
I saw.
I'll take that compliment.
Okay. A question. When you win the fight, you get to the back, who's the first person you call? And is there did you make a first phone call? Was there somebody that you called that wasn't watching the fight? I mean, what was the first person you called to celebrate?
Well, this fight, I was lucky because like, all the most important people in my life were like there with me. So I got to kind of have that moment with them live. But my phone was like blown up. But I think one of the first like 2 texts I sent was maybe to like my mindset coach that I worked with, and like my nutritionist, because those were 2 like people in my team that weren't there.
Okay. Well, that's cool that you had everybody there, because I mean, obviously that's a moment that, I mean, was it anything like you had pictured in your mind? I mean, you've been around this game a while. You're a little older in the fight game.
Yeah.
Did it hit you like you thought it would? Like you had envisioned in your dreams or in your daydreams about it? Or was it like just, I mean, I'll never be able to experience that. So I'm just curious as to what like the euphoria of when it hits you, what does it feel like?
It took like a while to set in. Like it was just like one of those things where it's like this really just happened. Like and like what I was telling everyone, I was like, for me, like I expected us to have like a 5-round war. I was expecting like it was gonna come down to like, like the 4th and 5th round, really like kind of like I'm gonna bite down like on the mouth guard and just like be gritty and just who wanted it more. Like I thought it was gonna be a really gritty, like dirty fight. Like so then the fact that it like I finished it in the first round, it just made it like more of a shock, where it was kind of like holy crap, wait, like like I'm the champ now. So it was like a good week or so of it just being like, wait, this is like real.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because like I keep thinking back to I think about this when you got the short notice call for the what was it, Elise Reed, right?
Yes.
For the CFFC thing. I mean, it's weird. I mean, there because that was kind of like your first time where the possibility of becoming a champion was there.
Right.
Was there any part of that? I mean, it had to kind of like prime the fire to do everything you're doing with the mindset and all the stuff we've talked about with the book and everything, and just how your preparation from that point on, something about that fight kind of paved the way to and sparked the fire to what happened with at Invicta FC 49. Is there anything that you take away from that time, from then to now and moving forward, that just says like, wow, like some people don't really pay attention to the losses and the lessons that are in them? So I'm just wondering if there's something about that you kind of want to like pass on to folks that are watching your journey, that you got so many people on Twitter following you, and it's almost like the victory came off of a fire lit from a loss.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like, I think it's like a loss is not a loss if you can learn from it and you can grow from it. And I think that's like some of the hardest part to do as a fighter, right? Is to like go back and actually watch like the fights you lose. It's fun to watch the ones you win, or at least the ones that you feel like the ones you win that you perform well on, right? Ones that we lose, like you ask most fighters, they're like, yeah, no, I don't want to watch those. It usually takes me a little bit to be like, all right, I'm going to watch it. Usually watch it like once initially because, you kind of have to. But then it's like, kind of sitting there breaking it down, like, all right, what went well, what didn't go well, and really just being able to like be honest with yourself and really study what you did in the fight, and then study what your opponent did that worked, that won them the fight.
So like now, you're champion. I'm wondering, like, what's your point of view as far as like, now you're the top of the food chain now at Invicta FC. You've been pretty public about like, Invicta's my home. I want to be the champ here. Obviously, you want to defend the title. So how do you approach, the future? Do you have folks calling you out? Are there people that are? I mean, obviously, I know Del Boni was asking for a rematch after the fact, but it was pretty convincing win. You first round finish. You leave it up to Shannon Knapp. How do you approach like your future opponents?
Yeah, I mean, like there's been girls that are obviously calling for it, right? Like they're like, nobody's being like super disrespectful or anything. I had on like one post Invicta had done, there was like this whole little posse of like these for this amateur girl that was like calling for it. So that was the only one I did a rebuttal on, because I'm like, yeah, you guys are being disrespectful. Like there's like plenty of pro girls that are in the division already, and you're over here, you haven't had a pro fight, and your people are calling for it for you. Like, what? No, like you're disrespecting me and you're disrespecting everybody else. Other than that, everybody's just been doing what anybody else would do, right? Like, oh, like I want that next shot. Like kind of put me in coach type of thing. That, yeah, you got to do what you got to do, right? But as far as like, thinking about like who would be next, I'm just doing me. My last two fights, like that's what the focus was. It was just like, all right, we know what their strengths are. We know what they might try and do, but we're going to mainly just focus on like what we're going to do. And that seems to be working really well for me. So we're not going to change that.
No injuries at all. I know it was a quick fight. You didn't take
no. I've been knock on wood. I have been blessed because I knocked. Now the dogs think somebody's at the door. Wonderful. Stop it. So now what was the question? Because I just got this.
Just injury free. You've been lucky.
Yeah. I've been so lucky. Knock on wood, because I'm not going to do it again. But like my last two fights, I've come out pretty clean. Was able to get back to training pretty quickly. This past one, I had the best cut I've ever had in my life, so I didn't even need to recover from the weight cut. And just kind of back to work.
I mean, you got a lot of coverage league going up. I mean, the New York Post wrote a nice piece on you. I mean, that's why I didn't even know about your what was it you played in? It was the high school or college? You played basketball?
Yeah, I actually had a scholarship for college.
Yeah, so like I was like, oh my god! I mean, it's just crazy the amount of love you got from the Northeast area.
Yeah.
Right before that fight, and then now, here you are as champion. I'm wondering. I mean, if Invicta's going to give you some love and have an event out here, like maybe for your first title defense. Like I know we say it every time, Atlantic City, New York, one of the two. Yep. Come on.
Well, I got teased for this last one. I heard they were like some strong rumors that they were trying to do like an East Coast card. And like they were actually trying to look for venues like around here, like New Jersey stuff. Like, and I was like, oh my God, how amazing would that be? Then we wound up in Oklahoma. So, let's same, right?
Well, I told Ed the only way I'm getting out to New Jersey is if it's for a title fight for you. So. Otherwise, I'm probably steering clear. You mentioned Las Vegas. We saw the pictures where you had the belt and stuff. obviously kind of a Tim Sylvia, moment. I guess I think I would do the same thing. It just seems like an incredible emotional roller coaster for such a quick amount of time that it happened. Any weird reactions? Any funny reactions to anybody in Vegas that saw you walking around with it, or anybody recognize you? Anything like that?
Well, we got like talked into doing one of those stupid timeshare things. So like the guy at the timeshare thing had seen my viral video of knocking out Lindsay, and he was like, "I know you," and I was like, "The knockout?" He's like, "Yes." So that was that. A lot of people were like when we're walking around with the bell, like taking pictures and stuff, people would be like trying to be nosy, and I'm like, well, if they ask, I'll tell them what it is, but if they don't ask, I'm not gonna say anything. So like a few people would ask, but like more people were like kind of like wanted to know but didn't want to ask. The wildest interaction was actually when I landed back in New York, because of course I'm walking around the airport with the belt, like holding the luggage, and we're at baggage claim, and this little like rough looking dude is there like waiting for the baggage claim, and he's like, "You fight?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, you know what I'm gonna do? Next time I have some beef, I'm calling you." And I'm like, all right. I was like, yeah, nobody will ever expect that.
I got
it. Did you put the belt? Did you have to put the belt through the X-ray machine
security?
And stuff? Security?
Yeah, like when I got to everywhere was fine except for when I was leaving Vegas. The people that were working I guess TSA there were in really bad mood. So they were being very pleasant individuals, and they were saying some very nice things. Wow. And I was like fuming. I'm like, I can't even say anything to you guys because then you won't let me through security, and then I can't catch my plane, and I'll just allow you to be super disrespectful to me and not do anything about it.
And then the TMZ headline, Invicta
champion
causing problems at Las Vegas airport.
You know what's weird about that though? As I hear that story, what's weird to me about that is like you got the belt for fighting. Right.
I'm
you would think that's not the person's buttons you want to push. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're a champion and you're walking around with a belt that obviously you're publicly displaying, it's something. I'd be nice as hell if I was TSA. I'd be like, hey, you just walked right through.
Yeah, it was these two girls, and then they were just toying with me, and I was like, God. It was like steam coming out of my ears.
But that's the martial artist in you, though, right? You're like, okay, let me just deal with this and walk away and let me walk onto my flight so I don't miss it. So wow.
Yeah, something like that.
Invicta just announced the tournament, the strawweight tournament.
Yes.
I would imagine as the champion, as a current champion, someone that fought in a tournament before, they're probably going to be calling you soon or having you do some sort of video, or maybe even be on site for the tournament as something, because they like they do with Megan Anderson and stuff. I mean, is there anything like that in the future, or have you heard about anything like that coming up for you?
No, I'm not sure what they're gonna do as far as for Atomweight. I think they're gonna at least have probably two people fight or something. Because there's no clear person that's next in line.
Yeah.
Kind of like how when Lindsay and I fought, I knew if she won, she was gonna get the title shot. So that's why I was like, all right, if I win, I'll call for it. But then when I won the way I did, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be like, I should get this. I can call for it in a little different way. There's no they don't have anybody even before Lindsay and I fought, there was no clear person that was gonna be the next person. So I feel like it's the same situation now. They just signed a few new girls, so I don't know, how they're gonna kind of figure it out. But I think they'll probably have, somebody at least maybe a couple people fight for something and being like, all right, who kind of showed us the most?
Yeah, I mean, I meant like as far as just having you do some commentary for the strawweight one coming up.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about that.
But you actually bring up an interesting point. That's one thing I was actually looking on Invicta's website before we started recording. What's your take on promotions doing their own rankings? Because usually they have media do them, and the people doing the rankings often aren't the ones paying attention closely to the fights happening. So if would you prefer that they do something like that would help line up potential opponents for all the fighters, or do you like the way things are done? I mean, I know me and Matt like tournaments anyway, but you know what I mean? How would you prefer? Are you for or against rankings is what I'm asking.
I mean, it's like rankings are cool, right? Because if you're high in the rankings, it's like, ooh, this is cool. But I feel like they're super biased, right? Because they're like, it's like who likes who, like what, who actually, stands. Because you'll see some of the rankings sometimes, like, and it doesn't make sense. You're like, how is this person ranked higher than that person? Like, even you just look at like face value, look at the records, right? So I mean, like, I like them when I'm like number one in the rankings.
Of course. Yeah.
They're like, oh, these are great. These are the best rankings ever. But I do feel like they're biased. Like the UFC, like they have like their ranking system. You're like, oh yeah, like okay, yeah, this is like number one contender. Outside of that, it's not really super set. It's like, kind of depends on like who's behind it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you mentioned the rankings. I don't want to get too deep into this because it's not something we like to do. Have you heard any apologies from the people at SureDog about that article they wrote?
Not yet. Nope. No, we're our we haven't gotten around to it yet because I've been like crazy with work and stuff. But like my plan is to kind of send out an email too of just like, you can put a disclaimer at the top of your article, fine. But that article I feel like was disrespectful and just so distasteful on so many levels. Like not even just to like atomweight females. Like you were just like, oh, basically there's no small females outside of Asia. Like what? Who says that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was totally disrespectful. And like I said, we have a good relationship with some of the guys over there. So it's really kind of a weird thing. It was the last thing I expected from that website.
Right.
Well, so I was just curious if they reached out to you, since you were you're their number one ranked atomweight in the world. If you have an issue with the article, I would have thought maybe somebody would have PM'd you or said, new writer, whatever their excuse. Really, there's no excuse. They let it go through as pretty amateur hours. So, but that's all I gotta say.
So that's the thing about like, and I've SureDog is amongst one of the places I've written about, and I try not to. I mean, you all know I don't write stuff like that. But it's weird, the internet culture, and I know Jillian with all the stuff you go back and forth with on Twitter and the wiki feed and all that, all the craziness that you deal with as a on the internet. It's just there's a weird like people for some reason pull out the pom poms for the weird negative shit, and it draws traffic, and for some reason that's a shtick that sells, and people continue to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll never do it, but I'm definitely someone that like I just maybe because I'm an old man, I don't understand it, and I don't think I'll ever understand it. But stuff like that, I mean, everyone's wondering, but the flip side to it is because it was shared so much, they got what they wanted out of it.
They got it was clickbait, right? Yeah. And people were talking about it. People were mad about it. I don't agree with that at all. I'm not someone that believes in like any attention is good attention. Like I don't want that. Like I'm not going to do something negative. I'm not going to disrespect someone just so I can get clicks, I can get likes, I can get follows. I'm like, I'd rather have 0 follows, 0 attention, and be like true to myself and be a good person.
Well, Ed talks about not doing it. Me and Ed have both been around following this sport forever. Even SureDog comes from the generation of, if you get in the cage, you respect those people.
Right, like old school respect.
It didn't matter if they were a garbage woman or a garbage man who didn't know anything. They put it all on the line, went in that cage, fought for you. You didn't disrespect them like that. So I would expect that from some kind of new, millennial website or something looking to, be like that. But from certain websites, it threw me off. So, I'm glad you called them out.
If it was like some like, low level site, whatever, like I wouldn't even have given it attention. It would have been like, whatever. But because it's from like a respected site and like, you put a disclaimer on it. So you knew this was like not okay.
Yeah. The disclaimers, they don't put that on everything. It's usually because they know there's they're expecting some fire. So this is their like, listen, this ain't us. That's this guy.
Right.
but he still works for us. Yeah. Well, speaking of rankings, I mean, this is technically, I was trying to make this all, I was going to do like a Halloween intro. I know we've talked about horror movies in the past, and Jason, your manager, shout out to Jason, who was a big horror head like myself. I was busy because I was doing stuff for outlets that I write for, but I know Matt. I asked Matt. Hopefully, he's got the Freddy Krueger shit out behind him. He's got some good. My only horror question is Halloween. If you're ranking your horror movies, like what you're gonna watch on Halloween night, what does Invicta FC Atomweight Champion Jilly Bean watch on Halloween?
I'm actually gonna be in Cali.
Oh wow!
So I'm going to like a music festival that's like kind of like not Halloween the movie, but like Halloween the holiday themed.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be doing that. I'll be
cool.
watching movies, but what I've been watching now is not very horror-y, but I was told it was like classic I needed to watch was like Hocus Pocus. So I've been watching that. Very, very spooky, very gory, very scary.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of questions. I guess my question would be, have you watched the new Halloween? Because I saw Ed's review on it and it didn't make me want to jump at it. So I figure I might as well come to an MMA champion to ask if I should watch a horror movie. Is it even worth my time? Considering I love the Halloween. I love the originals. I love 1 and 2. Everything after that is like, I can do with it or out. Worth my time? Have you watched it? And if you haven't,
I have not watched it.
What about Jason?
Jason watched it. I think he watched it like as soon as it came out, type of thing. I think. I haven't gotten his feedback on it, but he likes like everything. So I'm gonna say that he probably liked it.
Are you a big fan of the gore horror movies, or are you more like the psychological stuff?
Yeah, I like psychological stuff. But I don't like gore. I can't watch like that. I can't watch stuff late at night because then I'll get all riled up and I won't sleep. Like, I watch like a lot of true crime type, like real life horror.
Yeah, that's actually
like all my like horror stuff. I get most of that from Jason, where I'm like, all right, here we. Let's talk about some good stuff.
and that's the thing. I mean, and she always kind of reiterates this to me because I'm like, you sure you're not a horror fan? She's like, no, I put all that stuff out on social media because it's Jason, and I'm just trying to. I mean, that's you doing your research, putting your feelers out.
I'm like, I need some info.
Yeah, but the thing with guys like Jason, like that, like everything, they kind of it's like through because of your relationship as your manager, he's probably as your manager managing your taste in horror films.
He's like, you gotta watch this one.
But I mean, not for nothing. I mean, he's I just feel like since we're mentioning him, and I know he's not on, he'll probably watch this, but he's somebody that's kind of like he's, from what you've told me, he seems very selfless and coming out to the fights and being there to support you and just like even if it's just holding pads or something like that. I mean, I feel like that those are the you hear about these managers that are very in the public eye, and you don't hear enough about guys like him.
Right.
So I mean, if you want to like shout him out, I mean, especially with what you guys have achieved in your journey, I mean, definitely like shout out to the manager.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like he doesn't take any credit. Like after the fight, I told him, I was like, you were like a big reason why this happened. Like because last January I was like, that's it, I'm done. Like I'm not the frustration, the aggravation, like not getting fights, it's not worth it, I'm done. Like him and my boyfriend, like we're like, nah, you're not done yet. Like if you were actually done, we'd be like, okay, but you're not done. And then just like even when I made my pro debut, like I had when I was an amateur, I had no ideas about going pro, anything. That wasn't even like on my thoughts, my radar. We started working together, and he was like, you probably. I was like, you're really good. Your record's really good. You probably make your pro debut with Invicta. I'm like, what, really? And then like it happened. So I'm like, none of that stuff would have happened the way it did. Like maybe eventually I would have gotten signed by Invicta, but I wouldn't have made my pro debut with them if you didn't put that in my ear and you didn't do the legwork behind the scenes to get me noticed and to, make that happen.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's something to me that's super admirable because I mean, you still have your day job too. Like fighting's not your main thing. You have a job. So to reach the level that you've reached, I mean, it's nothing to overlook. And I'm glad that, like, as we're coming up to the end of 2022, that I got to see this happen for you, especially, I mean, knowing you and talking to you and watching everything that happened. I just, I'm glad you make time for us to come on the show. And I mean, that's it for me. I know Matt's probably got a couple more questions for you, but I just want to congratulate you and just say thanks.
Thank you. And thank you guys for always like supporting me, have my back. That's the people you gotta look out for, right? People that had you from the beginning. Not everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon once it's like you're at the end. It's like, no,
you're undefeated and a world champion since you started coming on the podcast.
See?
We'll just, and you need to go back and watch the Van Zant fight, because I think you'll appreciate my line. Your fight was on Friday the 13th. And I said on this Friday the 13th, Jason isn't the only one catching a body. And
that's amazing.
that was the highlight for that one. But I don't have really anything else. I just want to say that, you winning that, the shows we had during those two fights was really the highlight of the year for us, as far as just the excitement and the fresh something new for us to really dig into and enjoy. In a world of fighting that can kind of get a little stale. So props to you. Props for the way you
Atomweights
finish.
aren't exciting though. We don't have any power. We have no muscles. So like,
I mean, you're somewhat excited. I think Dana White should just give you a belt like he did with Ronda Rousey and Jose Aldo when they went over to the UFC.
Wait, atomweights aren't exciting, right? Like, and we can't have a division in the UFC, but Hasbulla is going to get a fight. I just thought of this. I'm like, wait, we got a problem here.
Yeah.
Like, atomweights, no. You guys aren't exciting. You can't be in the UFC, but Hasbulla can.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's good that Invicta has a good hold on it right now. I think you got the Japanese scene. I think letting it build and grow organically there before jumping to the UFC. I mean, the UFC made that jump to the lightweight division in the early 2000s because they had BJ Penn. They had a couple names, and then it faded away and it disappeared. And it wasn't until the WEC really did their job to establish those that it allowed it to really have the growth and become really the premier division, the lightweight division, probably the premier division in men's MMA. So, I mean, Shannon Knapp does a great job. I've
she really does.
Events.
She's amazing.
I've been to a handful of events. My only argument is that she needs to go to Jersey for Ed and get back to Vegas and Costa Mesa out here for me in California. But
I think this last one, the one that's coming up 50, I think they were aiming to do it in Cali, but I think because they're doing it tournament style, it probably wasn't, because they're doing, like, I was surprised at how they have it where it's like who the winner or whoever makes it to the final is going to have 2 3-round fights. So that's 6 rounds, and most commissions, like, the most they'll allow is 5. So I was like, it was probably Colorado Commission was one of the few that was like, we could do that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a 5, a 10-minute, and then.
No, it's not. They're doing it a little different. So there's only 4 girls, right? So it's only a semifinal and a final. Okay. But the semifinals is a regular 3-round fight. The finals is a regular 3-round fight.
That is different, because usually it's 25 minutes, and they can, if they want to do 25 1-minute rounds, they can work that in. I think
that makes sense though. Yeah, the way they're doing it makes sense though. I mean, if for anyone that's concerned with the safety and the length and the possible damage, stuff like that, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I feel like it's cool to do something there. So that's why tournaments, this wash, rinse, repeats of like, you get 13 fights on the card and everyone fights. So I mean, this is what makes stuff interesting. And I mean, you haven't been part of a tournament yourself. I think Invicta's got a lot going for them with stepping outside of what everyone else is doing.
The norms. Definitely. And it's, and they do a good job at it, and they really take care of their fighters. So it's, you can't really ask for anything else.
I know you said you're going to Cali for Halloween. Are you going to be watching and doing any coverage of any fights over the weekend? Are you going to catch Paul and Silva's boxing match? Anything like that?
Probably not.
She's going to be getting ready. She's got to pack her belt to go through TSA again and deal with all that now.
This is like the last leg of like champ travels.
You need to just wear the belt under like a shirt, and then when they go, what's that going off? Go, oops, I forgot to take my belt off.
I'm sure that's gonna go over really well. They're gonna take me to a back room and like strip search me.
Speaking of really quick, where is the belt? You have the belt at home or in the gym?
No, it's here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's here because it like travels around a lot. Like if I go to dinner with somebody that's taking me out because I won the fight, the belt comes.
Hey,
don't make the Mighty Mouse mistake. When you go to defend it, don't bring it with you. So they make sure they give you another one.
Yeah, you can't bring it with you. No.
That's right.
You can have two if you want, but you take that picture later.
Yeah,
exactly. You get the replica and then you bring that in with you and you get the double. But yeah, that's a funny thing about Mighty Mouse going, oh, I only have like 3 belts. I'm like, well, you shouldn't have brought them with you and brought them.
Right. Well, they're like, oh, we can save money here.
Exactly. Well, I don't have anything else. Great talking to you again. Appreciate your time. Look forward to your next fight. I'm sure Ed will be breaking that news as soon as that comes around the bend.
You got anybody you want to shout out, or any other thanks you want to give before we let you go, and then enjoy your Halloween weekend and stuff when you go to Cali? Just the floor is yours.
No, it's so my a few of my big sponsors, Sick Chick, she always makes my fight outfits, Receptra Naturals, it's all great CBD products, good quality stuff. I got Swole House Meals, my nutritionist Marshall Z, my manager Jason Adams, and my coaches and teammates at Long Island MMA and Ring Sport Muay Thai.
Awesome. Fans can check the show out weekly at allaccessmma.com. Check out allaccessmma.com for our video podcast and MMA news and stories. You can follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. And, of course, you can check out Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Happy Halloween, everyone, and thanks, Champ, for your time again.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. Always a blast.
Appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everyone.